I want to start off the show today talking about Derek Carr, because over the last couple of days or so, I think the interview was actually had on Wednesday. I think it was yesterday that this interview was actually had, but Raiders General Manager Mike Mayock essentially gave the rundown of where his team was in terms of organizational position, where they are in evaluating the talent. And, they talked about Gabe Jackson. Well, actually, he declined to talk about Gabe Jackson. He talked about Trent Williams, his contract. They were talking about Derek Carr as well. And the general manager went on record saying that him and John Gruden would be standing shoulder to shoulder and pounding the table in support of Derek Carr, calling him one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't know about the rest of you, but when I heard that news, when you taste a lemon, if you taste something really sour, like maybe a Sour Patch Kid, and you just kind of have that revolting, twisting face, that was kind of my reaction. But regardless of that, I wanted to look up the passing stats for each NFL season dating back to his debut in 2014, and I wanted to read them off to you and see what you guys think, have you guys reach your own conclusions as to whether Derek Carr is actually one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And obviously your definition of what is the best quarterback in the NFL is going to be subjective based on what you find and what you think is good and or bad. So with that being said, in 110 games in his career, Derek Carr has a 47-63 quarterback record, which you can't necessarily contribute exactly to Derek Carr. I mean, obviously, that's a record of an entire football team with him as at the helm of the football team. But it's not like the Las Vegas Raiders have been the holy grail of football over the last 6 seasons or so. Derek Carr has a 64.4 completion percentage, 26,896 yards passing. I believe that's a franchise record, with 3 4,000-yard passing seasons, and he was very close in 2 other years to getting 4,000 passing yard seasons as well. I think he was 13 yards away one season. So you could, even though officially that's not the case, you can argue that he has 5 4,000-yard passing seasons, which is pretty good for being in the NFL for 6 to 7 years. He has 170 touchdowns, 71 interceptions, and averages 244 yards per game. He's also a 3-time Pro Bowler with Pro Bowl seasons in 2015, 2016, and 2017. Now, I wanted to obviously get his stats, but I wanted to compare his stats directly to pretty much every single quarterback in the NFL during his time in the NFL. I wanted to do it maybe within the top 5 or top 10, but Pro Football Reference wasn't cooperating with me, and I did pull all these stats for Pro Football Reference. It's all there if you're interested to go and look at it for yourself. But looking at the passing stats for all of those seasons, here is where I found, and I cherry-picked specific categories to tell you for this segment specifically. So specific categories and where Derek Carr ranks in those. Derek Carr, when it comes to completion percentage, in 2014, in 2014, in terms of completion percentage, Derek Carr was 30th. In 2015, he was 23rd. 2016, he was 15th. 2017, he was 14th. 2018, he was 5th. 2019, he was 2nd. And 2020, he was 10th. So his best year in terms of completion percentage was 2019, where he was the 2nd best in the NFL. When it came to yards in a season, in 2014, he was 19th. In 2015, he was 13th. 2016, he was 14th. 2017, he was 14th again. 2018, he was 12th. 2019, he was 8th. And 2020, he was 11th. So again, 2019, probably, despite what Brian Mayock has said, was statistically his best year thus far. Again, 8th in terms of passing yards in 2019. In terms of touchdowns, Derek Carr was 15th in 2014, 9th in 2015, 8th in 2016, 13th in 2017, 21st in 2018, 19th in 2019, and 11th in 2020. So his best year statistically for touchdowns was in 2016. Now, interceptions, and keep in mind, this is ranked from most thrown based on Pro Football. So if you're number 1 on this list, you have thrown the most interceptions for that given year. I try to get the stats a little bit of a different way, and it didn't quite pan out. So that's the context that we need to take interceptions with. It's if you're number one, you have thrown the most interceptions in the NFL that season. So 2014, he had the 16th most interceptions. In 2015, he had the 10th most interceptions. In 2016, he had the 28th most interceptions. 2017, eighth most. 2017, he had the 21st most thrown interceptions. 2019, he had the 19th most thrown interceptions. And 2020, again, he had the 19th most thrown interceptions. Again, best year statistically was 2016. So it seems like 2016 and 2019 so far are statistically some of his best seasons. And then quarterback rating. And these are the last couple of stats that we're going to look at. For this video here. Quarterback rating, 2014, he was 30th. So 2014, his rookie season, and this, obviously, it's not a logical leap to assume that your rookie season is going to be your worst season. But in 2014, he was 30th in quarterback ranking. 2015, he was 19th. 2016, he was 8th. 2017, he was 19th. 2018, he was 18th. 2019, he was 9th. And 2020, he was 10th. So 2016, again, was his best year. 2019 was a close second. And then QBR based on ESPN. Now, the quarterback rating for Pro Football Reference and the QBR calculations for ESPN are a little bit different. A lot of these numbers line up statistically, or they're very close, but there was enough of a difference for me to try and include this. 2014, he was the 30th most sacked quarterback. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm already getting ahead of myself. In 2014, his QBR based on ESPN, he was the 30th best quarterback. In 2015, he was 31st. 2016, he was 16th. 2017, he was 21st. 2018, he was 28th. 2019, he was 10th, and 2020, he was 11th. 2019 was his best year in terms of QBR based on ESPN. Now, I did get a little bit ahead of myself, and I spoiled it. I know, I'm sorry. Bad reporter, bad content creator, bad podcaster, bad whatever. I also was very curious to know how much he's been sacked under the Raiders organization since he's been there. In 2014, he was 23rd most sacked. In 2015, he was 14th most. In 2016, he was 34th most. 2017, 31st most. 2018, he was the 4th most sacked quarterback in the NFL. That's 4th. 2019, he was 20th. 2020, he was 18th. His best year was 2016, being only sacked 16 times. Now, after all of that, statistical jumbo that we just cooked together. And feel free to go back and listen to that again if you missed something or you may have forgotten something. Here's my takeaways from all of those stats. One of Derek Carr's best attributes is not turning the ball over. Apart from 2015 and 2017, he was in the bottom half of the league in terms of throwing interceptions. So when it comes to his turnover ratio, even though he did have games with multiple interceptions, overall throughout the seasons, his interception total is actually consistently on the bottom half of the league in terms of throwing more interceptions. So he's not really throwing that many interceptions. He doesn't turn the ball over that much. And the thing that is not really going to appear on the stat sheet is actually Derek Carr's durability. And of course, everybody remembers Derek Carr breaking his leg right before the Raiders make the playoffs. And that was probably their best season under Derek Carr. And that completely killed all of their momentum going into the playoffs, was when Derek Carr broke his leg. But apart from that, Derek Carr has only missed 2 games in his entire career. At least that's my interpretation of the stats. That could be wrong. That's the way that the stats read. They might be missing something. The reason I'm saying that is it's hard to believe that he's only missed 2 games in his career. But if he truly has only missed 2 games in his entire career, that's a huge plus for Derek Carr, because the saying is availability is the best ability. And the fact that he has only missed 2 games is absolutely incredible. But it also kind of deters him in a way, because some of the stats, with the knowledge that he not only has not been injured all that much, but he also has had pretty consistently good offensive line. It's like, man, you should be doing better in those statistical categories, and you're not. Now, obviously, again, the Raiders aren't exactly the holy grail of football. They've had, apart from John Gruden in his most recent tenure, they've had consistent offensive coordinator and head coaching changes. it's going to be difficult for you to get any type of consistency, but I digress. As I said, he has had mostly above average offensive lines apart from 2018 where he was sacked 51 times. So that fourth ranking in terms of most sacked quarterback in the NFL, that was again 2018 where he was sacked 51 times. But apart from that, he's mostly consistently had a very good offensive line as an Oakland Raider, as a Las Vegas Raider. And statistically, you can argue that what Brian Mayock said was true in terms of saying that John Gruden has gotten the best out of Derek Carr. Consistently across the board, 2019 and 2020 were some of his best statistical seasons. Apart from his 2016 season, which was also a Pro Bowl season, he had a pretty good statistical outing in that season as well. There is a steady increase in quality of stats the further his career goes on, so there is evidence that he has gotten better over time. But other than that, if you go back and you read the stats here, and maybe I'll post a link in the description for all of these stats for you to look at yourself. Other than that, Derek Carr is essentially, based on the stats that I provided, and apart from some outliers here or there, he's just above average in nearly every category that I pulled. He's not average, he's not a top 10 quarterback in the league, but he's consistently in that 11 to 14 slot, that 11 to 14 to 15 slot. So he's that second line of quarterback in the NFL. Now, again, as I said at the beginning of the segment, this all depends on what your definition of a good NFL quarterback is. If a good NFL quarterback is just good enough to run the offense, not turn the ball over, and get you to playoff games, then Derek Carr has succeeded in some capacity, but he's also completely failed in that capacity. And, the gut reaction that I had when I heard the Raiders GM say, oh, Derek Carr is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and we're really happy with him. It's like, yeah, you could see why he would think that. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't get injured very much apart from when he broke his leg. But other than that, statistically speaking, touchdowns are above average to below average sometimes. He passes for a lot of yards, but in some seasons, but he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns in those same seasons, which means he's not putting the ball into the end zone, and the Raiders are having trouble scoring overall. And of course, with all that being said, with having such a good offensive line, you could definitely take a look at these stats and say, man, you should be doing a lot better than you actually are. So obviously, I'm going to leave this a little bit open-ended as to answering the question as to whether or not Derek Carr is actually one of the NFL's best quarterbacks. But based on the stats that I went through and I read for you, at least it appears to me that he is an above-average quarterback, but he is just a step below that top 10 area where I would consider to be the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Let me know what you all think of this. Is Derek Carr one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in your opinion? I'm definitely interested to hear your take on that one. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.